You're listening to the Manuscript of Soul. Part 1, Chapter 3. Interstellar Space Station A2712. She stood alone at the large front window of the spaceship. In front of her nothing but endless darkness. Her breath painted little clouds into the frozen air. Suddenly, with a loud cracking sound, a fracture appeared in the glass ahead. With a snake-like hissing sound, her heart started to pound violently, but she was unable to move. Frozen, she knew it will end now. The glass shattered with no sound, and thousands of tiny glass pieces scattered through the vacuum, breaking the light, making it seem like everything around is sparkling for a moment. Deadly. The fragments sliced into her skin, the pain so sharp and blinding. Tavi screamed and suddenly sat straight up in her bed, breathing hard, glancing at the clock beside her. Almost time to get up anyway. She walked over to the small bathroom and washed her face with cold water that woke her up. Then she turned on the interstellar radio. Most of the time, it played new music made by the station's residents, sound collages of tapping, hissing, and cosmic rustling woven into beats and melodies, layered with distant voices. Every now and then they played old Earth music. It could never quite compete with the synthetic elegance of modern music, yet it carried a quiet nostalgia. Tavi took another bite of her sandwich and a long sip of coffee before heading off to work. Climbing into her star car, she tried to shake off the remnants of the morning nightmare. She tried to think of something else. What if the signal really is real? Flashed through her mind. Everything she knew and believed in spoke against it, but the thought that there might be some truth to the signal wouldn't leave her, and if she was honest with herself, she had never seen such a strong spike in Stefano's discoveries. She arrived at the tall main building of the research center, which towered high above the city, with its modern glass facades and a big Star of Enlightenment sign on the front. It stood out from the rest of the city. It seemed out of place amidst the rusty brown and grey walls surrounding it. The ACIST, the Alpha Centauri Institute of Science and Technology, was both a leading research institute and an elite university and formed the center of the space station. It brought together the brightest minds in literature and philosophy, physics and mathematics, law and politics. In the Faculty of Engineering, where Tavi and Lux worked, research focused on energy generation, propulsion systems, and interdimensional travel. After Earth had perished so miserably, it was decided that politics should be placed in the hands of those who best understood the laws of nature, people capable of weighing them in decisions that affected humankind. Thus, the research center also became the political heart of the space station. The door slid open and Tavi stepped into the middle chamber. The pressure equalized with a soft venting sound. She removed her helmet and tucked a loose strand of her straight dark hair behind her ear that had loosened on the way. "Good morning, Miss Gent," greeted the kind, round woman at the reception desk. "Good morning." Tavi walked through the vast, bright lobby. The walls and the part of the ceiling facing the central star were made of glass, flooding the hall with light. Tavi's quick footsteps echoed across the stone floor as she approached the wide staircase that rose in the center of the atrium. The building's core enclosed a big inner courtyard, built in a square shape and was shielded with glass. Along the edges were the scientists' offices, and in the middle a large park had been created, filled with plants that once grew freely on Earth without human help. Sometimes she thought with regret that so many of the people living here would never see it. This beautiful site was reserved only for those who worked within the building and had access. Tavi worked on the top floor, from where she could look down into the garden. In the corridors of the way to her office, many people were walking and chatting. Tavi held her card against the reader of her office door, and the lock clicked open, letting her into the room where she spent most of her time. It was a large, bright space furnished with sleek, white, futuristic furniture. Tavi set her back down and pressed a button to power up the computer system in her office. They began to hum softly, and she leaned back in her large chair, letting the last rays of light fall across her face. She was painfully aware it would grow darker with each passing day now, until the last light vanished and the long night began. There were 3 knocks at the door. She sat up. Yes? Her boss, Mr. Vo, an older man with a round belly, always dressed in a shirt and waistcoat, and with his usual calm manner, stepped in, holding a large cup of coffee. Hey, Tavia, we've got a meeting in half an hour with the research team down in the main hall. They want to announce something. Are you coming? Sure. She was wondering what could be so important that it required such a spontaneous meeting. Then see you later. He raised his cup before moving on to knock on the next door. Tavi walked out of her office to the bright, spacey kitchen at the end of the corridor, grabbed a cup to fill it with coffee before heading down to the large, round conference room with a podium in the front. Everyone was already there, chatting with their coffee mugs in hand, some still not fully awake. Near the front, close to the panel, she spotted Lux. His hair was as messy as if he had just rolled out of bed, and his slouchy, oversized clothes didn't exactly scream scientist. He'd been working in research for years and was a brilliant member of the association, even if you wouldn't guess it at first glance. He was talking to a professor from the planetary research department. When Lux noticed Tavi, he looked up, and a smile formed on his lips. Do you know what all this is about? Tavi asked, while approaching him. The professor next to Lux looked at her over his cup. It must be something with the engine, either something really good or really bad. He raised an eyebrow and took a long sip of coffee. Ifigo stepped onto the panel, the leading system engineer responsible for the simulations of the dimensional transportation engines. He took the microphone and cleared his throat. The murmur of the room slowly faded, and everyone who was still standing found a seat. Hello, and thank you all for coming on such short notice. Yesterday night we ran the 200th simulation of the interdimensional flight to Bernard's star. As you all know, the habitable zone is the area around a star where the temperature is just right for liquid water to exist, not too hot and not too cold. If a planet is too close to its star, the water would boil away, and if it's too far away, it would freeze. So planets inside that zone have the best chance of supporting life. Bernard's star is about 4.4 light years away from our interstellar space station, and recent surveys have revealed multiple planets in its habitable zone. Bernard is a red dwarf, but its system has shown conditions that could, in theory, support Earth-like environments. What do you mean by in theory? Interrupted Tavi, and got an annoyed look from the presenter at the panel. We don't know yet whether the planet meets all necessary conditions. Current data is limited. What we do know is that it lies within the habitable zone. Whether it actually possesses a stable atmosphere or a protective magnetic field remains uncertain. That is precisely what this mission is designed to determine. She looked at him with narrowed eyebrows and did not interrupt a second time, but didn't look convinced either. The simulation had shown that we would be able to travel through interdimensional space and reach the planet at Bernard within 1 month of travel with our spaceship Orion 1. After 200 simulations, the phase transitions between the time-space of our dimensions and the interdimensional space appear stable. The ship's core successfully maintained energy coherence during each test. The core of the ship alters its own frequency or energy state, allowing it to exist in different dimensions. This transition is referred to as phase transition, or more precisely, a dimensional phase shift. He continued hesitantly. We can't yet observe what happens when the ship is in a different dimension, but the ship re-emerges after the predicted delay. The simulations indicate that the ship always maintains its structural integrity throughout the transition. What lies beyond the corridor between our space and the target coordinates remains unobservable. For now, we call it the silent phase. Lux and Tavi exchanged a mocking look. Lux took a sip from his coffee and she suppressed her laughter. The results have been reviewed by the Interstellar Science Council ISC, and after years of simulation and cross-system validation, they have finally given us clearance to begin the real mission. He paused, letting the words sink in. In around 1 month, our ship Orion 1 will leave our space station and this dimension. A sudden wave of unease swept through the room, followed by a ripple of hushed voices. We had trained our pilots, captains, engineers, and physicists for years for this very moment, but somehow she never really thought that this moment would actually arrive one day. Everything was ever so abstract. And now, suddenly it was tangible. It was here. A tingling ran down Tavi's spine as goosebumps spread across her arms. We already prepared a list of the ones of you that will go. You will be contacted soon. It will be a crew of 22 people. He folded his papers and his eyes went meaningful over the listening, speechless crowd. Thank you all for coming. Then he left the pedestal. Lux turned towards Tavi. Holy shit, Tavi, he said. I didn't expect that. She nodded. Who do you think will go? Well, we will find out soon enough, he said, taking the last sip of his coffee. Mr. Vo catched Tavi's eye from the other side of the room and walked over. Who would have known? He shook his head. This is scary and exciting at the same time, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know if I want to be chosen, Lux said. And what the hell did he mean by silent phase? The silent phase? Mr. Vo raised an eyebrow. That's the scientific way of saying they have no idea what happens in there. It's like dark matter or dark energy. Give it a name and suddenly it feels a little less terrifying. Oh, great, Luke said. Let's hope I'm not one of the lucky ones going on that ride, he added, set his cup down on a coffee wagon and slowly made his way through the remaining crowd, hands buried in the oversized pockets of his slouchy pants.